how can we know whether it's a good idea to speak our truth, stand up for what we believe in, to speak up for what we want to create, or when it's time to say, hey, this is unnecessary conflict? But when is it time to say, hey, this is a necessary conflict that I need to step into right now because it's not right for me not to say something? How can we know when it's time to do this? Let's talk about this in this video. Let's talk about how to know when it's time to be bold and speak your truth. Step into your ability to speak what needs to be spoken in that moment. Let's talk about this. Because there's a time and place where we don't have to, but it would be preferable and it would be in the best interest of you and that person. And I'll even go so far as to say the entire universe, to speak what needs to be said in that moment. And we're gonna talk about in this video exactly when it's time to do that, how to know when to do that, and also some pointers and tips on how to do that effectively. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. And I do just want to say that a couple spots have just opened up for the coaching program. So there are limited spots available. So if you do want to have that opportunity to work with me one-on-one personally, while there are still spots, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for that consultation. Now let's talk about this. What's the first sign you know it's time to be bold and speak your truth? When not saying something allows people to invade your space. See, when you're not saying something using your voice, when you're not using your voice telling somebody, hey, it's not okay for you to invade my space like this, what are you doing? You're sub-communicating with your actions that it is okay for you to invade my energy. You're not saying that explicitly, but implicitly with your non-action taking, with your lack of using your voice. Even though you're not saying something, you still kind of are saying something. You're telling that person, hey, it's okay for you to invade my space. That's what you're doing. You're giving them permission. See, I see people talk about this all the time. It's like, oh my God, this person invaded my space, Francis. They did this to me, they did that to me. And what they don't realize is that unconsciously the whole time, they've been letting people into their space. And when you realize that, it's like, holy, I can't even play victim anymore, because to some degree, maybe I've been letting this person into my life without even realizing it. See, I don't have this in my life anymore. If I have somebody that's invading my space, I have no problem telling them absolutely not, that is not okay. I had to deal with this with family. My whole life growing up, I had narcissistic family members that were invading my space, and I realized that by not saying something, this was actually me giving them permission to invade my boundaries. So if you're finding in your life right now that not saying something is seriously holding you back from feeling like you have grounded boundaries in that present moment, it might be time for you to say something. And it might be unacceptable for you not to say something. And this is a perfect example of when you know it's time to be bold and speak your truth. See, now I want to make this clear though. What am I not saying here? What am I not saying here? I'm not saying that every single moment requires of you to push your power out into the world and speak your truth. That's definitely not what I'm saying here. So don't twist what I'm saying and interpret it as like, okay, so Francis is saying to always be bold, always speak your truth. No, I'm saying that in the infinite present, like in the infinite possibilities that exist in this present moment, sometimes conflict is completely unnecessary. What a waste of time to speak your truth sometimes. What a waste of time. Hey, there's a time and place to realize that, hey, wait a second, by me feeding into this argument and by me speaking my truth, I'm literally wasting my time, I'm wasting my energy, I'm doing a disservice to myself, and I'm also doing a disservice to this human being. So there's a time and place to just implicitly say nothing, get out of the situation, and go back into your own energy. There's a time and place to do that. There's time and place also to be like, wait a second, by not saying something, this is not working. There's something that needs to shift here. Something is not right here. Something needs to be said. Not because of my ego, not because I'm attached, but because by not saying it would be egotistical. We'll get to that in a second. So understand that if not saying something allows people to invade your boundaries, that's an example of when it might be time to actually start saying something, because now you're gonna start stepping into your power when you do this. You're aware that, hey, sometimes it's a waste of time. Sometimes it's a disservice for me not to say this. It's a disservice for me not to communicate this. It's a disservice for me not to speak my truth. And that's exactly when you want to speak your truth. Now, the second thing I want you to understand is exactly what I just said. The second thing to know when it's time to be bold and speak your truth into that, in that moment, to speak your truth, is to understand that if you start to notice that it's a disservice to you and your life and what you want, and also to some degree, even if that person disagrees and doesn't see it, if you also know it's a disservice to them for you not to say it. Now, am I saying that what you're gonna say, they're gonna agree with? No, they might disagree. They might not think that it's best for them for you to say that when you say it. In fact, they might get offended. It might create conflict. It might create anxiety. It might create negative emotions in this situation. But somewhere in your heart, you know, oh man, I have to say this. Not because you're attached to defending some position and convincing somebody of something that's coming from your ego, because you know, like, no, actually, if I don't say this right now, this is gonna not allow me to live the life that I want, practically and emotionally and energetically and mentally, hey, maybe even financially and physically. And if I don't say this, it's gonna affect me. And also, they're not gonna learn some lesson that they truly need to know in their heart. Not because I'm trying to convince some position to them, but because actually the opposite. You might be trying to get away from all the positions, to get away from all the arguments, but you have to speak your truth in that moment to make it so that all that stuff gets resolved, you see? And so if you're sensing that, hey, it's a disservice to me and to them to not say this, that's a perfect example of when you want to speak your truth, when you want to tell that person whatever it is that they need to hear in that moment. Because it's going to be something that screws you over and them if you don't communicate what you want in a bold manner. That's the truth here. The truth is that sometimes we need to speak up for what we need to say in a conscious way. I'm not saying to not be present. I'm not saying to let your ego take over. I'll give you a warning right now. If you do this unconsciously, you can misinterpret this whole video as an excuse to be an egotistical maniac. So don't do that, please. Don't confuse this video with, okay, Francis is saying to argue with people, be angry, and do unnecessary conflict. No, I think a lot of conflict in this world is completely unnecessary, completely waste of time, completely based on the ego, completely based on just the word speaks for itself. Unnecessary conflict, meaning that it's not needed. But I want you to understand that although that is the case a majority of the time, there is a lot of times as well where you being in alignment with your higher self does not contradict being bold, speaking your truth, asking for what you want. You see, so many people, even in the spiritual awakening communities, I've noticed, are afraid to speak for what they want. Part of the reason why you came here is to unapologetically be who you want to be and speak for exactly what it is that you want to create. And if you're starting to think like, oh, you know, I can't speak for what I want, I don't want to go into, oh my gosh, that's going to cause conflict. Let me ask you this, where in your life are you running away from conflict? And where is that stopping you from being the most powerful servant you can be for the higher consciousness, and also creating your own life? See, if you consider yourself spiritual and on the spiritual path, you got to understand that part of your job as a light worker is to turn those conflicts into something good. And there's two ways that I found to do it. Either we just leave and there's nothing that needs to be said. There's no need to be bold. Just, hey, this is a waste of my time. I love you, nothing against you, but I'm going to exit this situation right now because this is not honoring me, right? You just leave. You step back into your own energy. You step back into your own frequency. You don't push anything out into the world, being bold or like pushing, it's like, no. You know what? I'm just going to go back into my own energy here. no worries. I'll see you next time. Maybe in another life, maybe later in this life, but right now I'm going into my own energy, into my own femininity. See, that's fine. But other times though, that is not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. So you have to put it into your hands and be like, okay, so this is not gonna work. I need to say something. When do you say something? When it's a disservice to you and to them to not say something. The third thing I wanna share with you is that if you not being bold in your life, in whatever area, if you not speaking, using your voice, I'm talking about, you see this thing here, these lips, a voice is coming out of these lips. If you not using this tool that we call a voice, this thing that we call a voice, this is a tool. This is nothing more than a tool. Your emotions in your body are nothing more than a tool. It's not spiritual to scream or to be angry. No. Nothing is not spiritual. Everything is spiritual. It's all just a tool. The question is, how are you gonna use this tool? And is not using this tool stopping you from creating what your heart really wants? That's the third thing I want you to know. Is not saying something stopping you from manifesting what you want in your life? If that is the case, may it be time for you to be bold and speak your truth. Let's say you're starting a business. Let's say you're doing sales. You want to sell a product or a service. You have something that you know is going to be very powerful for this person or for the world, yet you're scared to cause conflict and sell something. You see, what you're doing there is you are now sacrificing what your heart wants. And believe me, I will go so far as to say that not only you're not going to manifest what you want, the world is going to miss out on the beautiful thing that you probably have to sell. So let's say you're in sales, you're not afraid, so because you're afraid of stepping into conflict and speaking your truth, now you don't get to manifest what you want. That does not sound like a spiritual life to me. Spirituality doesn't exclude anything. Spirituality doesn't exclude anything. It doesn't exclude thoughts. It doesn't exclude anger. It doesn't exclude fear. It doesn't exclude conflict. And if you not saying something is stopping you from creating your life in the way that you want, which I'm just going to say right now, if you're aligned with the highest consciousness path that exists for you, the path that allows you to create what you want from that raw, pure, heart-based space, if you're stopping yourself from creating what the heart wants, not what the ego wants, for what the heart wants, it's time for you to speak up and be bold. Again, don't confuse this with making decisions in life that are based on the ego identity. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying if you're aligned with the heart and you have something that your heart truly senses is in alignment for you, yet you're not going after that because you're afraid to speak up and be bold, that is an issue. I'm not going to tell you that you have to live your life in a certain way. But what I will say though is that seriously what you want in your life? Is to not create something because you think being bold is not spiritual. I seriously don't encourage anybody to fall into that trap. Because when I fall into this, when I have personally fallen into this trap, and I find that I can't be the full expression of who I really am if I'm afraid to be expressive. Surprise, surprise. Being afraid of being expressive stops me from being expressive, which stops me from creating what I want, which stops me from being in alignment with my heart. And of course, guess what that does? It stops other people from being in alignment with their heart. Lose. Disservice to you and to them, lose. So if you not saying something is stopping you from manifesting, I encourage you to speak up and be bold. Do it in a conscious way. Do it consciously. But do it boldly. Don't be afraid to be bold. You are a powerful being. And I give you full permission in your life right now to consciously be bold. It doesn't make you less of a spiritual person. It doesn't make you less of a holy person to speak up for what you want, to create what you want, and to live into the reality that you truly want to create for yourself. Know when conflict is necessary and know when it's not. And if it is necessary, speak up, be bold, ask for what you want, And don't be afraid to speak that truth into existence, to speak what the heart wants, not what the ego is thinking, but the heart, what wants to come through the heart. And if you can learn these things, you will have a much better time living your life, and you'll feel more free than you've ever felt in your life, because now nothing is stopping you from expressing who you actually are and what wants to come through the heart. So that's all I have for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Like I said, there are limited spots, so if you do want to take this opportunity to work with me one-on-one personally, while there are still spots available, definitely hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Now, as always, have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.